So the trade talk of the Rams moving on from Matt Stafford is really heating up. On Saturday night, the Rams granted Stafford and his agent permission to talk to other teams about his market value and potentially facilitating a trade. So as each day goes by, it's really looking like they're headed for a split here. A lot of smoke here, man. And at this point, I'd be pretty surprised if he came back to the Rams. We're kind of heading into the territory of no return. And it's really looking like the Rams just aren't interested in giving Stafford a new contract. And it was reported right after they played the Eagles that if he was going to return to the Rams, he wanted a new deal. So, yeah, man, let me know if you think the Rams are actually going to move on from Stafford or not. Definitely looking like they are, and I hope they do. I hope we get a really exciting offseason. And I've mentioned this before in a previous vid of mine, but I'm really curious to see what Sean McVay can do with a rookie quarterback, and I'm curious to see who he'll actually pick to be the QB of the Rams going forward, and when he'll eventually draft a guy. We recently saw that with Bo Nix and Sean Payton. We have kind of yet to see it with Kevin O'Connell and J.J. McCarthy. And Sean McVay is one of the best head coaches in the NFL, and I really just want him to kind of cement his spot as one of the best. And I think in order to do that, you need to be a great quarterback developer and evaluator. And I'm really eager to find out, to see if he's great at that aspect of the head coaching job. So potentially really looking forward to that. Now also, Raiders insider Vincent Bonsignore had a quote to say about the Raiders potentially acquiring Matt Stafford. Quote, "Something to keep an eye on. The persuasiveness of Tom Brady as a recruiter for the Raiders. It will make things interesting during free agency, and maybe even in the trade market. It's why you can't rule out Matt Stafford as an option." Now, Matt Stafford to the Giants, Matt Stafford to the Raiders. So far, those are the only two teams I've seen him linked to. I'm sure his trade market will be a lot more than that. Dude can still sling it, even though he is, 39, 40 years old and has a lot of tread on his tires. Still a pretty elite quarterback in the NFL when healthy, man. A play away from beating the Super Bowl champs on the road. Pretty impressive stuff. Now, if you're the Raiders and you're Pete Carroll and you're Tom Brady, why not? Why not go get Matt Stafford at this point? I feel like you kind of owe it to the fans, just the fan base of the Raiders and Oakland and Las Vegas. It's been a while since we've seen competitive, consistent ball from the Raiders franchise. So to bring in, a head coach that has won before, when you bring in a quarterback that's a Super Bowl champion, that's probably a Hall of Famer one day. Probably. Not first ballot, but probably one day. To bring in two pieces that you need to have a successful franchise, I just think that would be a beautiful thing for all Raider fans, and I'd be excited to see it, man. It would definitely make the AFC West even more competitive and exciting. Matt Stafford, Pat Mahomes, Herbert, Bo Nix. Some pretty top-tier QBs right there, and some pretty top-tier head coaches that would probably solidify it as the most competitive division in football. Obviously, if the Raiders just acquire Matt Stafford, they obviously have a lot more work to do around the roster and whatnot, but the two most important things to a franchise in the NFL: quarterback, head coach, owner, and that's it. Mark Davis addressed the ownership issue with Tom Brady. Will he be a good owner, part owner? We'll have to find out in the next few years, but so far it's looking pretty good. Like I just mentioned, they brought in Pete Carroll, Super Bowl champion, very successful years with the Seahawks. Great hire. potentially bringing in Matt Stafford for 2 years to be a bridge quarterback for the Raiders to kind of reset the culture and to kind of show the Raiders fans that it's a new era for this franchise. I think that's a great move too, man. So, just as a fan, I hope it happens. I just think it makes a lot of sense. I think the Raider fans kind of deserve it at this point in time. Let me know if you agree with me and if you want to see it happen. And yeah, if you're kind of iffy on the Raiders acquiring Matt Stafford, don't worry. It's not going to be a long-term deal or anything like that. It's not like he's going to be around for 4 or 5 years down the stretch. No, it's probably going to be like a 2-year sort of thing, maybe just a 1-year thing, depending on how the first year goes. And like I said, he would just be a bridge quarterback. Hopefully they draft a legit QB in either this draft or next year's draft, and he could maybe potentially learn from Matt Stafford on the bench and whatnot. So I think it makes a lot of sense to give Brock Bowers Matt Stafford. I'd be very curious to see what sort of numbers that guy can put up in his sophomore year. Again, I just don't think it got as much attention as it should have, but the numbers and the records that Brock Bowers broke his rookie year with Gardner Minshew, Desmond Ridder, and Aiden O'Connell, just really impressive Hall of Fame potential-esque stuff, man. Like, he's arguably the greatest. He's arguably the best tight end in football right now, and I know that might be a bit too of a positive take for some people, but man, like, he had Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew throwing him the ball, bro. Like, it's not like he had Josh Allen or Tua or just like a decent NFL QB. We're talking about the bottom tier QBs of the NFL throwing him the ball, and he broke all those rookie records. Like, imagine what Brock Bowers could do with Matt Stafford. Imagine. Now, as far as the rest of the offense, yes, they need wide receivers. Yes, they need running backs. So, a lot of work to do for them in this offseason. But to add a QB like Matt Stafford, man, I like it a lot. I really do. And honestly, out of all the potential free agent quarterbacks available, I would definitely rather have Matt Stafford for, a couple years than pay Sam Darnold like 4 years, $200 million. I definitely think Matt Stafford is definitely a better quarterback than Sam Darnold. And it's kind of another interesting team to watch out for potentially. Matt Stafford, Kevin O'Connell, Minnesota Vikings. There is a connection there. They do have a relationship. And, if I'm a Vikings fan, I would definitely rather have Matt Stafford for a year than pay Sam Darnold like 3 years, 4 years, $100 to $200 million contract. And just again, like another good bridge quarterback for J.J. McCarthy. Another year to redshirt wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. So, Matt Stafford definitely has a lot of options. I'm excited to see where he ends up. And I'm excited to see what the Rams do with Cooper Kupp and their quarterback room in general. So let me know if you think this move makes sense. And do you think he'll end up getting moved? Let me know in the comments below. If you made this far, please subscribe and like the video. It'd help out your boy a ton. That's all I got for right now. Peace.
You got to be agile when you make these kind of catches, running these short drag routes across the field. That time we saw the agility of the receiver. Nice catch. Looking across the middle, and incomplete as Marshall can't hold on. Holding offense. That penalty is, of course, going to be accepted by the defense. Double tight end formation. 1st and 20. It's Marshall. Marshall's met after a gain of 8. You got to be able to adjust when you run these drag routes across the field. The throw cannot always be right on target. Can you reach behind, make the catch, and keep going full speed? That's the sign of a good receiver.
And he's forced to the ground. Man, this defensive end, Jim, he is some talent.
That time, good job. Makes the move, shows the speed, and gets around there and gets the sack.
This drive now about to reach the 10th play of the series.
Doesn't like what he sees on the defensive side, so he is changing the play to the receivers by giving him hands.